Okay, good morning, and thank you for your patience. We wanted to give a chance for others to join, and the numbers slowly ticking up, which is great news. So, welcome, and thank you for your time. It's a very exciting moment for us at Galen Growth Asia. We are literally launching our Galen Growth Asia Health Tech Alpha platform, which I'm sure you'll agree with us when you get to the end of this webinar, is a very exciting platform, particularly for health tech in Asia Pacific. A little bit of dexterity for us this morning. We're having to switch between what we're showing you by way of slides, as well as showing you the platform, and as well as speakers. So apologies if there's a couple of hiccups as we try to do that. It's not always as polished art. My name is Julian de Salaberry. I am CEO and founder of Galen Growth Asia. I'm very excited as well this morning to be able to introduce you to Dario Heyman, the Chief Research Officer of Galen Growth Asia, who, with his team, have been beavering away for the last 2 years to build Health Tech Alpha what it is now. And he'll join us in a few minutes. For us, Health Tech Alpha is the most advanced digital health analytics platform in Asia Pacific. We will spend the next 30 minutes plus explaining to you why we believe that and demonstrating to you in a short manner, because I realize it's only a 30-minute webinar, why it is quite simply the most advanced platform in Asia Pacific. First of all, though, if I may, for those of you less familiar, Galen Growth Asia, and a little bit of history about us. It is the go-to reference in Asia Pacific for investors, corporations, and startups for all that is data, trends, and insights for the digital health ecosystem of Asia Pacific. We, as an organization, work with the Fortune 500 companies, global investors, and some of the most promising and proven health tech startups in the region, who are intending to engage with the ecosystem in order to scale themselves as well as scale the ecosystem. We're founded by health tech entrepreneurs, so we know what we're talking about. We're 3.5 years old. We're based in Singapore, which for most of you, you will know is a major innovation node for Asia Pacific as far as tech innovation. Galen Growth Asia is generally regarded by anyone who knows us, and increasingly by the ecosystem across the world, as the only health tech experts in the region. We're fully and solely dedicated to digital health in Asia, and there's no other organization, as far as we know, and we've done a lot of research, and that possesses the knowledge and the expertise that we have in digital health in Asia Pacific. We operate deliberately at the epicenter of investors, corporations, and health tech startup innovators. And our intention is to ensure that those three key stakeholder groups, three drivers of the ecosystem, work together. And so over the past 3.5 years, we've learned a lot of lessons, we've spoken to a lot of people, and we have developed some really interesting insights, as well as a full understanding of what those three key stakeholder groups need by way of tools, as I would suggest, to interact with the space and help it scale. We have the largest network in Asia Pacific, the outcome really of the founders who have been in health tech and have been health tech entrepreneurs for the last 4 or 5 years at least. And the team as well, who have been with Galen Growth Asia since its inception and have built their own networks through research, through interactions, through the summits, etc. But I won't spend too much time on that. Just to reiterate, our focus is Asia Pacific as a whole. Our cardinal points are Pakistan to the furthest west point, China to the furthest east point, Japan further north, although I guess some of you may argue that's not quite further north than China, but let's put them equal. And of course, further south would be Australia and New Zealand. So it is the most comprehensive view of Asia Pacific and enables us to address any corporation's weird definition of Asia Pacific. We are expanding into Europe this year. In a month or two, I will be going to Europe to set up the European office, and our objectives for that particular expansion are to project Asia Pacific into Europe. There are some major investors and some significant number of decision makers for multinationals sitting in Europe who are very keen to understand the Asia Pacific ecosystem better and to be able to engage with it better, as well as there are some very promising startups which are very much looking to engage with European decision makers or even expand into Europe. So as you can see, it's an exciting year for Galen Growth Asia, and one that will see us get better, faster, stronger, and see the ecosystem emulate our growth. some slides are just going to pop up in 2 seconds to accompany the next piece. Some of you, and I suspect the minority on this call, will probably ask themselves, why should Asia-Pac health tech be a priority for you? Let me just switch to the first slide. We will switch to the first slide at some stage. The Asia-Pac health ecosystem is an $80 billion ecosystem, which is growing at a combined annual growth rate of 60% plus. And that is faster than the US. It's confirmed the Asia-Pac health ecosystem as the second largest in the world. It closed at 6.8 billion last year, doubling 2016. And is driven by a number of key drivers, but I'll just talk about a few because most of you probably joined us for our webinar or have read our report. But to show you there that Q1 has exceeded the US, so Asia Pacific health tech, digital health funding growth in Q1 2019 exceeded the US. So contrary to some reports, and the latest this morning from PwC and Insights reporting a downturn in Asia venture capital. But contrary to that claim, I can comfortably tell you that in fact, digital health in Asia Pacific has seen a growth in funding over this time last year, and is definitely on a trend to exceed 2018 and break more records. Yes, we've seen a downturn in deal number, but we've seen a serious uptick in ticket size. This particular chart very quickly gives you a feel of what I've just shared with you. So fewer deals with bigger tickets. So as you can see, the deal number on the like-for-like basis is at 60 versus the 91 of 2016, for example. However, the total funding for Q1 is ahead of Q1 last year and twice, if not thrice, what it was for Q1 in 2016. A very quick dip at a couple of other slides for your information and context. This is just demonstrating a pretty flat approach to early stage investing and an equal share for growth stage investing and a sort of uptick in exits. But the exciting news is that we're seeing continued appetite from growth stage investors, and we'll continue tracking on that as we go through the year. And you'll find that our H1 2019 report due out in July will treat all this in much more detail. Quick next slide. Very quickly to share some of the insights that you will gain from HealthTech Alpha as a user of HealthTech Alpha. And that is, for example, that if you look at Q1 2019 versus 2018, you'll see that China, in fact, is flat, and that's probably pretty much aligned with some of the GDP growth measures that you're seeing bottom right hand corner of this chart, which is aligned to the fact that its domestic economy is certainly slowing down. India's plummeted. And that's also echoed in the chart top right, which shows you that investment has dipped. Election years are never good in India in terms of uncertainty and outcome. But the exciting news is the rest of Asia is thriving and has seen significant growth. And of course, I would encourage you to go to the full report available on our website to get the detail. Okay, very quickly, another insight you will get on a real-time dynamic basis looking at HealthTech Alpha, and that is, for example, which categories are the most attractive to large organizations such as pharma companies or to investors. Very quickly for you to discuss, to see for yourself on the screen, medical diagnostics is still a #1 position in Q1. This is just Q1 2019 data, guys. So if you want to see the full 2018, download the report, which is available on our website for free. But also have a look bottom right, and you'll see that research is growing fast as far as its attraction of dollars. The exciting news there is that we're really seeing a sophistication of health tech in Asia, or a growing sophistication of health tech in Asia. Last slide. Okay, I won't spend too much time on that. That's our little joke in relation to cappuccino or latte, question I ask myself most morning. But obviously, HealthTech Alpha and access to data will be able to give greater granularity to these data points in front of you. But all that to say that we do not see Asia-Pac health tech as a frothy environment. It is definitely stable and well on track for growth. A couple of interesting deals are starting to raise eyebrows, though. But again, that's the sort of information you get when you have access to HealthTech Alpha. Okay, I'm conscious this information is available online. Some of you have sat through our webinar for the release of that information, so I won't go through all of it in greater detail. But if you want to know more, please download. If you want to know more than that, then please reach out. We'll be happy to talk to you. Let me talk to you about Health Tech Alpha. So Health Tech Alpha is a labor of love, really. It's been the hard work of the entire team for the last 2 years. And it's therefore is a very proud moment for us and a very exciting moment for us as well. And we're very, very excited to be sharing with you directly. So it initially started as an internal tracker. As you can imagine, like most investors, who no doubt do the same thing, we started capturing information that we were collecting from the various startups that we were talking to, largely to help us try to categorize and also to help us try and publish some of the early reports that we made available in the early days of Scale and Growth Asia. But we really rapidly discovered that actually that tracker of ours was growing in size and, of course, was becoming quite a treasure trove. But we also discovered that our interactions with investors and with large corporations, and by that I mean pharmaco, medical devices, consumer tech players, and a plethora of others, such as, for example, Switzerland's ABB, which is a civil engineering company, but funny enough, they're getting into digital health, that we quickly discovered that actually they had a thirst of the same information. In other words, in order to actually define a proper strategy and make the right decisions at an investment level or at a corporate growth level, they needed the data and they needed to understand who they should be partnering with. And so over time, really, we discovered that that thirst turned into actually being able to share that data. But as you can imagine, it's much more efficient to try and share that data via a platform such as this one. So we embarked on a journey of building Health Tech Alpha, and here it is. We're, as I said, very excited. And so we will spend some time showing you its key aspects, acutely aware that we don't have time to go through every single piece of detail, and help you as an individual work out what it is you want out of such a data trove and analytics, but also try and help you tailor that approach to Health Tech Alpha. But for that, of course, we will encourage you to book your own demo where we can do a very tailored approach to the walkthrough, and of course to defining or helping you understand how Health Tech Alpha will meet your specific needs. We rely heavily on inputs from investors. We rely heavily on inputs from the corporate clients that we work with, but importantly, we work very closely with startups. Startups are increasingly understanding that this is really the resume of their startup, or the best way to place their resume in front of investors and in front of corporates. And I'll come back to that and explain that a bit more. Essentially, we have designed Health Tech Alpha to enable the key three stakeholder groups I was talking about, so corporates, hospitals, as well as investors and startups, to fast track the digital health strategy. And it is equally applicable to all three of those stakeholder groups, and you will discover why, and we will explain to you that as well. We see it very much as a way of empowering those three stakeholder groups to fast track the timeline to ROI. And so therefore, efficiently and effectively being able to move from why I want to be in digital health to how do I execute my strategy in much less time, and setting it up for success because you're talking to the experts and because you're accessing the richest repository of data and smart analytics to enable you to do that. That means you can rapidly shape your decisions. That means you can unlock vital insights to make those decisions and support those decisions. It also means effectively you're accelerating your strategy and being much more efficient in a way in how you get there. It's not a competitor to platforms like PitchBook. We often hear that question from some of the investors we work with directly. It's the next level of your research and your DD. In other words, you're going from broad and shallow to a deep and narrow approach to digital health. And you'll see that when Dario walks you through it. But essentially, we go way beyond funding and financial data with Health Tech Alpha. And we've deliberately built Health Tech Alpha to achieve that, because that is what we're hearing as the greatest need from the pharmacos and the medical devices companies and other MNCs, as well as investors that we work with. Very quick dip into some of the key elements of Health Tech Alpha, and then I'll stop I'll end there and I'll hand over to Dario, who will talk you through it. But essentially, 6 key aspects of Health Tech Alpha you should memorize or certainly make note of from this webinar. It enables you to select the best fit ventures. In other words, how do you engage with a venture that has optimal fit with what you as an organization wish to achieve, be it as an investor or be it as a corporation? Or if you're a startup, how do you engage with the best fit pharmaco company or with the best fit investor? Not every investor invests in any health tech. Some of them have a specific speciality in terms of B2B2C models or clinical trials, etc. So you do need to understand who you should be talking to. Otherwise, you're generally wasting your time and that of the investor you're talking to. The same goes when you're talking to a large organization like Novartis, for example. Understanding key trends is important as well. You need to understand how you fit in as a startup within that overall. Standing there telling everybody that you are the best is understandable because that's what a CEO is expected to do. However, be aware that you're not the only one in the space, and therefore you will be rapidly compared to your competitors in the same ecosystem. Whether you like it or not, you will be compared because an investor worth his salt has a fiduciary obligation to their LPs that they will compare a potential target for investment with its own ecosystem. And you can imagine what happens then. They usually come over to us and say, hey, can you help us with these comparisons? So the same thing happens when you're the innovation lead of a large organization. When you've been set a goal by the franchise lead for diabetes that you need to access patients in a different way, you will invariably want to understand, if I'm looking at diagnosis of diabetes, and I'm looking at that in a specific set of markets, which health tech startups in that market have maturity in that market when it comes to diabetes diagnosis. And by maturity, we mean proven. Because what a pharmaco is looking at, as an example, is an ability to engage with startups that are already proven in the market. They don't really want to spend 2 years building a startup with you with all the risks associated. In other words, if you understand pharmaco analogy, they'd rather talk to something in phase 3 of a clinical trial than in a phase 1 clinical trial, and we help them with that. It's also an opportunity to assess and evaluate disruptors. In other words, who's really changing healthcare versus who's just adding a little bit of bells and whistles. And so we spend quite a bit of time, and Dario will demonstrate to you, taking each startup and breaking down that startup to its component building blocks of its business model. And so when a large organization, be it an investor or an MNC, says to us, listen, we're looking for the following tech in the following market within the following therapeutic area and with a certain amount of maturity, we're able to answer that question. And so a MNC is in a position to very quickly understand which ones are going to fast track their value proposition to the patient or the physicians in that particular market. Sorry. One thing also worth noting is that, of course, with that picture and that information, you will very quickly be able to uncover your competitive strategy. And that applies to whether you're an MNC or whether you're an investor or whether you're a startup. Because if you're able to visibly see for yourself who's partnering with who, who's investing to what, and who's in what markets, you have a very good strategic map. As a general would say, you've got a very good landscape of where your adversary is and how do you box clever to win the battle. And that information is, of course, priceless for anyone making a large investment, anyone making an important commercial partnership, or anyone investing the funds they've just received into their startup. You can track the health tech investors or the leading health tech investors. Many investors exist of all sorts of sizes and shapes and all sorts of colors, mostly in Asia Pacific crossover investors. And so each one of them has their own flavor, their own focus, and their own team. But we're seeing an increasing number of investors from Europe and the US looking very closely at health tech in Asia Pacific, and therefore asking us some hard questions around specific markets, specific capabilities, and valuations, for example, as well as capabilities, and then doing some comparisons with what they're seeing in other regions. Finally, but not least, of course, source and evaluate deals. And that's deals in the broader sense of the term deals. And that's particularly appropriate for the investor community and for the innovation lead community in large MNCs. And we do that, you'll see through the hugely improved workflow. You do that by tracking specific health tech ventures and being able to do some comparisons between these ventures so as to end up making informed decisions and taking informed decisions to your own leadership and in looking at the broad context of the ecosystem. So it's not small data sets to make a decision, it is a broader sense data set to be able to make a decision. Okay, so listen, enough about Health Tech Alpha, Scale and Growth Asia, and I'm sure you're all very keen to see it for yourself and be able to ask some questions. I didn't mention this at the beginning, but please use the Q&A facility on this webinar to ask your questions. I think the team is answering some of them already. We will take the opportunity to answer some of these live at the end, subject to time. But I will now hand you over to Dario Heyman, the Chief Research Officer of Scale and Growth Asia, who will give you a gallop through Health Tech Alpha, enabling you to see firsthand for the first time why we believe this is the most advanced digital health analytics platform in Asia Pacific. Dario, over to you.
Thank you, Julian. And just to reconfirm, this is not a proper live demonstration. So we started scheduling live demonstrations already. This is simply to give you a flavor of some of the key features we can do with Health Tech Alpha. So as you can see here, we're on our landing page. And once you're logged into the platform, you can easily join into, wait a sec. Okay. You can easily enter our platform. So just to give you a couple of key stats, Julian was already mentioning before, is that we are tracking around 2,000 startups in 25 countries in Asia Pacific. And we are going way beyond just sharing financial information about the startups, but we're actually diving into what is the venture actually solving, what are the technologies they're using, what is the value proposition the venture is bringing to the market, who's in their network, and who are their main competitors in the market. So one of the power horses behind Health Tech Alpha is actually our startup overview page, which gives you a flavor of who are the major players out there. So I'm following through one of our clients' tasks we've been performing over the past few weeks, where the client was majorly looking into one particular geography and looking into a value proposition ventures are solving in one market and are trying to figure out who is the excellent player for them to partner with. So going into this a bit quickly, you will see that the page is instantly instantly working to the commands we're giving. So focusing on Northeast Asia, where our clients was asking us to look into, we have to include 3 particular countries here, which are Japan, Taiwan, and South Korea. So as you can see here, is that while typing in the information is that the table below here are already evolving while you're going through the queries. As a second request of what then came from our client was only looking into one particular health tech category. So Health Tech Alpha has separated health tech ventures into 15 distinct categories. And 45 distinct subcategories. So our client here was only looking into one particular solution. They were looking into patient solutions. So this classifies everything from treatments over to recovery management and disease management. So as you can see here, by including the filter of patient solutions, you already see that we already have a much shorter list of ventures that are located in Northeast Asia and in the primary category of patient solutions. So they are solving anything that is somewhere between prevention, recovery management, and treatment. As a third filter, what our client was looking into is which of these Ventures is only solving one particular, is only using one particular category. So they were actually looking into a solution that is either using biosensors or it is developing their own biosensors. So by this, we can choose biosensors as a third filter, and you will see that you have a much shorter list of ventures that are actually provided. So by seeing this table evolving, our client was very intrigued in seeing, okay, who are the most mature players out there? And they were very intrigued by Health2Sync appearing here with a maturity alpha score of 73. So by diving a bit more deeper into Health2Sync, you can see you will get a much broader picture about what is Health2Sync actually solving. So the landing page for every single startup is giving you a broad overview about what is the venture actually solving. So you will get a short description about Health2Sync here. You will get our proprietary indices on the left-hand side with a description about what are those indices actually measuring. So you see how is Health2Sync performing in the market. What is its impact in its particular category? What is its monetary strength? So in response to how much money it has been raising. And out of this, we are then calculating our alpha score, which is giving you the strength of this particular venture in the entire health tech ecosystem here in Asia. The general information gives you some general information about, okay, how mature is the venture actually? What is its business model? Is it B2B? Is it B2C? So am I as a partner interested in someone who's going via me to my patient? Is the venture actually only patient-centric? So is it selling to the client directly, or is it only partnering with like a pharma company or an insurance company? Then we have a couple of tabs that are only giving you key stats. So like who's the founding team behind it, what funding has it been solving, and then one of the more interesting features of the startup overview page is the competition tab, where we are clustering the competitive environment around Health2Sync, either by its health tech category. So here we're only looking into patient solutions, by its therapeutic focus. And for those who know Health2Sync, know that it's a diabetes player out there. So we are looking into only diabetes solutions in Asia Pacific, and by its geography. So here the geography is Taiwan only, considering that Health2Sync is located in Taiwan. Some of you may or may not know some of their competitors already out there when it comes to patient solutions. So you will have players such as Jana Care, ZY Health, which is a Chinese platform. You do have Health2Sync here, and you have Microtech Medical, again, a Chinese platform. When you look into the diabetes solutions under the therapeutic focus, you will again see that some of those names are actually popping up. So such as Jana Care, whom you will see also here, which is in the same health tech category, but also having the same medical focus, which is diabetes here. Same as Zywee Health, and same as Microtech Medical. But you also have a corporation, PocTech Corporations, also a Chinese platform, which is not sitting in the same health tech category, but that does have also its therapeutic focus on diabetes solutions. So by just combining those two graphs, you already see, or you already have a nice overview about who are the major competitors for Health2Sync in its markets, who are maybe other partners, strategic partners you want to partner with, or you may want to invest in if you don't want to invest or work together with Health2Sync. So when you're looking into other countries where Health2Sync might not be active, then you may want to partner with one of those. The geographic filter, or the geographic competition, gives you an overview. How does Health2Sync actually perform compared to Taiwan as a whole market? So you will see Health2Sync with a score of 73 is much higher located to some of their peers from Taiwan. So here we are having ACT Genomics, iFit, and Top One Health. So you see that Health2Sync, by its strategic partnerships and by how it is performing, has a higher maturity score versus some of the other peers it has in its market. So now our client wanted to understand a bit more about, okay, it's nice to know who are my competitors when focusing on Health to Sync. Who are other players in other geographical regions we may or may not partner with? So here you can go onto the comparison tab. You can say, okay, I as a pharma company am also interested in other diabetes solutions in other markets. So let's, for instance, focus on solutions based in India, again in the patient solutions bucket. So you see something is already happening in the background. So you see there are a couple of startups popping up here, and if you may remember from the competitors tab before, we had JanaCare appearing. So we can compare Health to Sync easily now to JanaCare and see how does JanaCare perform versus Health to Sync. So you see that the alpha score, the maturity score is rather similar. You do have some differences in its market strength, for instance. So going into market, you may say, okay, Health to Sync may have a stronger market, but this is all a very subjective opinion. Then our client was interested in more developing countries or less developed countries than both Taiwan and India. So they wanted to understand who may be other solutions in totally different markets, such as, let's say, Vietnam here. So again, we are picking Vietnam. We are clicking on our patient solutions. And some of you may, but probably not know Zinmed, which is also a diabetes platform out there. You can also then easily compare Health to Sync versus Zinmed, which is a diabetes solution based in Vietnam. So you can understand fairly easily who are my competitors, who are maybe other strategic startups I want to partner with, or as an investor into whom I want to invest in, and to get more market share in the entire Asia Pacific region. So by closing off this section, you may not now understand where the strength is of HealthTech Alpha if you only look into one particular venture, to understand who are the major competitors of one particular startup, and to give you an overview about who are other players maybe in this region. So now to dive into another request we had from multiple actually clients most recently after the closure of CXA Group's Series B extended round about a month back. I want to showcase you how you can easily track the relationships map or the network of one particular venture. Because most of those requests were around, oh yeah, CXA, I've heard about it, but how CXA's strength actually in the entire market? So how does their network look? So one of the macro features from HealthTech Alpha is its relationships tab here. So opening the relationships tab, you will already see that on the left hand, on the right hand side, you will see different features appearing for the venture. So you will see interconnectivities between CXA and its investors, other institutions such as hospitals or universities, and also corporate partners. And you also see who of those are investing in CXA and which are the partners. So by typing in CXA here, you will see that this network is forming with CXA Group appearing in the middle. And then you can see primary connections of HealthTech, of CXA. So some of them where CXA works directly with, and you already see also secondary partnerships, either via their corporate partners or via their investors. So you see, for instance, here that CXA, which is now located in the center, has, for instance, a partnership with Telekom Indonesia, with Singtel, with other startups such as MyDoc, or with a medical device company such as Philips. It has connections with some of their investors, such as Open Space Ventures here. Where it then is also connected to Halodoc and to Bioformis in a more secondary level. If you are now a corporate and you want to understand, okay, how are my corporates competitors performing out there. If you're, for instance, a telecommunication company, you want to understand, okay, I'm now interested in CXA. Does CXA actually already has other strategic partnerships with telecommunication providers? And from this relationships map alone, you can already see that, okay, it is partnering with Telecom Indonesia, it is partnering with Singtel. And by then focusing on, for instance, Singtel only, you can already see that, okay, how is Singtel actually performing out there? Apologies for that. So you see that Singtel is not only working with CXA, it is also, for instance, partnering with Accelerate, another Singapore-based company. So you will easily understand how's the network of a venture doing, how is one startup or a corporate connected in its particular market, and to easily understand how does the entire ecosystem actually looks. You can click through, you can understand also from investors, how are they connected, so on and so forth. So to close this quick walkthrough of, and I want to highlight again, this is only a very brief walkthrough. There are many more features behind CXA you can understand. It is basically only to showcase you what impact the platform can do in order to accelerate your own medical decision-making process, how to fast accelerate the needs of either your clients or of yourself, and how can you track potential partners out there, both via primary or secondary connections of either venture you already partner with or of a totally new venture. With this, I would give back to Julian, who will facilitate our Q&A. I will join him very shortly then after. Julian.
Okay, thank you very much, Dario. Please feel free to join me this side of the screen. Hopefully you have had a chance to get at least the headlines of HealthTech Alpha. As I said, this was not supposed to be a detailed walkabout, but certainly an opportunity to help you salivate and book a demo using the button, as you can see on the screen in front of you. Dario, thank you very much. Congratulations. I think it's a fantastic achievement. I'm very excited and very proud of what we've launched today. We talked about a number of data bits and analytics and insights that we derive through the platform. And these are obviously very nicely visually shown on HealthTech Alpha. Talk us through the startup side. So what happens if a startup says, hey, I'm not on here, or hey, my information is not up to date? So what do you recommend?
Okay, so we usually try to have a direct interaction with the startups. So when they don't have a profile yet submitted, they can always submit it to us. So via our info box, or they reach out directly to us.
Yeah.
The team will then curate the information the startup is providing to us, let it be as form of a pitch deck, or they only give us the name and we do our own primary research. And are then back questioning, okay, are those information not accurate? Do you want to showcase anything else to our corporate clients already? So it's actually an interaction with the startup ecosystem itself.
Okay, and so how long does that process take? Are there a number of steps? What's the usual recommended guidance for a CXO who says, hey, I want to really make sure that I have my best profile up there?
Okay, so we are tracking around 120 data points right now for every single startup. Let it come from the financial information, which is less of a priority, over to what's the technology and what is the actual value proposition it is solving. It can take up to, let's say, a week or two until the team has fully curated the entire list.
Right.
And then we are adding the profile onto the system.
Okay, so broadly at the macro level, so that's a specific startup level. At a more macro level, can you give everyone a feel for, how often do we refresh data as part of our curation process? I mean, obviously they get a sense that we react immediately to a startup engaging with us, but generally what's our approach? And is there any way for a user to tell when the last piece of information was updated for that specific startup?
We currently do not mention when the startup got updated, but we are updating these startups on an instant basis. So when someone is saying these information seem off,
right,
then we are updating it. When the team is seeing that a startup is no longer doing what it actually does, so it's actually pivoting its entire business model, this is being updated as soon as someone sees it, but it's usually very instant.
Okay, great. And so so that's the startup side. Obviously, you showed us very adroitly here, the connectivity between corporates and startups and investors as relates to a specific startup, which is it's really exciting to start seeing how it all maps out and how people are connecting. Sorry?
I'm not sure if they can see me.
Doesn't matter.
Can you hear me?
Can you talk us through the value of if you're working with a corporate of looking at the connectivity here between a startup and its relationships around, and give a flavor for how some of the corporates we've been working with are using that information.
Okay, let's say you're a big pharma company out there. You're focused on diabetes care. Often you already have a hunch of where some of your competitors are working with. Mm-hmm. So you can start walking your way through the platform from this angle. So you open one particular profile of a startup, let's say, already, okay, this startup is already partnering with another corporate. So you can, but you can easily also understand who are then also other partners this particular corporate already has out there. Yeah. So you can easily track the entire competitor section around one particular corporate venture. Mm-hmm. So if you are Pharma 1, mm-hmm. you can easily understand where Pharma 2 and Pharma 3 are already partnering with, which startups I maybe not want to approach, or I already see, okay, this particular startup already has a number of other partners out there. Is it good for me to also partner with the same startup as well, to simply put myself also on the map and get more reach out there?
Yeah, no, you're right. I mean, it is often a conversation we have with many MNCs who all seem to want to work with the same venture, when in fact there's some equally strong, proven startups in the same space, and therefore you can spread the load, but also minimize the risk for conflicts of interest down the road as well.
Exactly.
Any other questions we have? No further questions? Okay.
It's nicely answered.
There's chat. People have asking questions through the chat at all? Okay, can't see the chat for some reason. Why is that? Okay. Just...
Can you define startup? I'm looking for
resellers for my product. I'm not sure. Okay, yeah, so very quickly on startup. You're right, the word startup is kind of used and abused these days. And I do tend to prefer to use the word venture. Essentially, we track health tech or digital health ventures, usually from their very first funding event, which is really when they bubble up onto the radar, sometimes earlier, which is usually at an angel level. And we will track them up until and including their exit. So it's either an M&A, so in other words, they've been acquired, or an IPO. In other words, they've listed like Ping An Good Doctor listed last year in Hong Kong. The slight caveat on that is that if we're looking at a minor IPO, so for example, the plethora of IPOs have taken place in Australia, on the ASX, where the raise is usually sub 5 million USD, we will continue tracking, largely as we don't regard that really as an exit. It's more of a funding event. Hopefully that helps you answer the question.
I will address the two questions in one question. Okay, good. So do you have a sense of your current coverage of the health tech universe in APAC, yep. And how do you collect your data?
Fantastic questions.
So focusing on your first question, so we estimate the health tech ecosystem in Asia Pacific at around 4,500 to 5,000 startups, and Health Tech Alpha is currently tracking somewhat about 50 to a bit more percentage of that. You can never track all of them. A lot of startups are flying either stealth mode or they are simply so young that you cannot track them yet. As soon as we have a first either direct contract with the startup or we see them appearing in some news, this is where we start engaging with the ventures. And then asking the second question from Bonnie Ruiz, how do you collect your data? It's a very interesting question. The data we often get are either of primary culture, so the ventures are reaching out to us.
Yep.
We are curating the data and adding them to the system, but the team also does their own research. So they are checking websites, they are checking news, they are checking everything what they can find on Google. So we actually take the work from the corporates of Googling their way through the entire platform, of doing it for them. So you don't need to check news pages anymore. You don't need to Google every day anymore who might be my target or my partner out there.
Yep.
This is what we are doing for you, and we're adding it into the system.
A couple of things I'd like to add to that is you're right. The primary side is growing fast as startups or ventures, to use a term I was trying to use earlier on, engage directly with us and ensure that their best profile is captured on HealthTech Alpha. And we would encourage every startup to do that, simply because when an investor or an MNC reaches out to us saying, listen, this is what I'm interested in, give me optimal fit, we want to make sure that we're putting, of course, the best picture or the best shortlist forward to that client. 50% and growing, or a little over 50% and growing, is a very impressive number. And of course, that's constantly growing, constantly curating. The team are constantly adding, and you know, that's the consuming side of things. We've got to make sure that what we put up there is accurate. Also worth mentioning that we track those that are dying.
Sure.
And there is, naturally a attrition rate in this space, and so
we do track. We do track who was active. We do say that they are deceased. We don't give you a time. Often the deceased range can be from 1 week to 1 month. So don't tell you that the startup deceased in October 2018, but it will be mentioned as inactive.
Yeah, well, it's an interesting data point as well.
It's an
to understand the actual attrition rate and where's attrition. You know, there's certain sectors or capabilities where attrition is higher than other capabilities, for example.
Then we do have a question about, then do you track who their customers are? We do track it in a sense of how their network is evolving. So we do track both the strategic partners and also their client partners, let's say. We don't just give you the sense of if this is only a customer-centric one, but you can build your own value around this when you see, okay, they're partnering with a lot of pharma companies out there. It's probably a pharma-focused venture. Or if you see that they focus more on consumer goods, then you know that their clients must be, it's a B2C platform out there.
So the word customer, though, is a difficult definition here. I mean, every client we talk to, every startup we talk to will have a different definition of what they regard to be the customer. A B2C platform, for example, versus a B2B2C platform has a different definition. So we track certainly the major bollards of that. And we do look at some of the data points for B2C platform. Hopefully that helps give some flavor as to what we are tracking. And of course, we continue to grow the data points. And so with the moment very much driven by the needs expressed by the market. And so, when we talk to a large insurance company, for example, we have an understanding of what their specific needs are. And so, we track the information relevant to them. Any other questions?
No, and I think we're running out of time.
We are slowly running out of time, but we've got a couple more minutes. Any other pressing, burning, last-minute questions? Just a quick one. Is this available on mobile?
It's available on the mobile. It is customized for web browser users. You can access it via mobile.
Okay. But it's optimal on a desktop.
But I urge you to use it via your desktop.
Right. Because of course, the number of drop-down menus and
any further development plans for HealthTech Alpha?
Ooh, that's an exciting question. Yes is the answer. Obviously, we're here to celebrate and announce version 3, as we call it internally, if you really wanted to know. We've already got plans for 3.1, 3.2, and in fact, we've got some plans for 4.0. So watch this space. But of course, a lot of our developments are really driven by the needs and the feedback we get from our users. So what's more important is that you should book a demo, get familiar, become a subscriber, and then you can try and influence certainly and play a role in our future expansion of HealthTech Alpha as a platform. From a data perspective, absolutely, we are looking at adding more layers of data per startup and very much in response to client need. And of course, with the previously announced expansion to Europe, you can imagine that we are already beginning to capture data relevant to the European ecosystem, which has a lot of very attractive outcomes to that. If nothing else, for example, to start calibrating valuation versus fundamentals, as well as capabilities between ecosystems, and also hopefully be able to try and join some dots. There's some interesting startups in both of those regions, and therefore how do we try and connect them and make something even more attractive to patients ultimately, but of course to commercial partners as well as investors. So yes, a great question, and one that's very exciting for us going forward, as you can see from the passion that's gone into building this Health Tech Alpha platform that you have in front of you. Okay, I think we're running out of time. It sounds like we're also run out of questions. Thank you, Dario. Congratulations. I pass on the congrats to the team for a fantastic product. We're very excited about this, and we are certainly looking forward to hearing from you in relation to follow up on this. As you can see, you can now hopefully get a very strong idea as to why we believe and are confident that this is the most advanced digital health analytics platform in Asia Pacific. It is launched today. It is accessed only by subscription. And so if you want to get a better understanding of the platform as it relates to your specific needs, then please book a demo. See that big blue button on the screen behind us or on your screens directly. Click on that button, fill in the short questionnaire, book a demo, and then we'll run you through in accordance with your scenario. Thank you very much for all your time. Hopefully you're as buzzed as we are about this, and we look forward to hearing from you. Have a great day.